Hi, I'm Tim, welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, and I know I do, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and price and email question line for buying this or any watch you see here on our channel or our website. Reach out to me directly, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today we are discussing a 44mm white gold limited edition of 20 pieces from 2015. This is the Bethune DB25T Zodiac, Power Reserve, Deadbeat seconds, freehand engraving, guilloche, 4 days of autonomy, a tourbillon, a 30-second tourbillon at that. This watch simply groans with riches. Let's talk about the basics of fit and feel and then get to those features. Talking about the watch, you have to acknowledge that it's thin. At 12.3 millimeters, it's no thicker than a Daytona. 44 millimeters in diameter by 51 millimeters lug-to-lug. It's actually reasonably easy to wear on a small wrist. It has a 24 millimeter spacing between the lugs, so the stancing of the watch on the wrist is modern and proportional to its size. You can see the over-the-top. It actually wears quite well on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. The cuff shot easily ducking underneath the sleeve, and then you can see the down the barrel shot. I've got a decent amount of clearance on both sides. I normally wouldn't recommend a watch this size for a 14 centimeter circumference wrist, but with this watch, you can wear with abandon. It will fit. Taking a look at the strap itself, it's high grade, large rectangular scale alligator leather on the top, gloss, folded edge, monotone stitch. It's small round scale gator on the bottom, and that I like to see. It's more durable than the calfskin typically used on the bottom of straps. More expensive, but it lasts longer, and this watch is worth it. A simple, polished, white gold de Bethune pin buckle for easy adjustments, and the lugs, which you can see have a wonderful drawn out, almost tensioned look to them. They're thrusting, angular, hard, and pronounced, but they are conventional, unlike the floating lugs of the DB28. Many prefer these DB25 lugs. You'll also note the ogival or bullet-shaped end to the lug profiles, the last styling vestige of the original 2002 DB1 chronograph. A sunny sun inset in the crown, and yes, he is freehand engraved and surrounded by a fired ring of blue titanium inside a double knurled and drilled white gold crown. The case is defined by a few character lines that run circumferentially to articulate the case and break up its size, as well as a domed bezel profile that elegantly gives way to a dial that is the main event. There is a lot to love here. Let's start from the outside and work our way in. You can see that all of the printing on the dial is blue, which is exquisite, and then inboard there is a ring of fired blue titanium, a process patented by de Bethune in the early 2000s. The individual white orbs are actually cabochons of white gold that are finished and placed by hand, and then you have 12 individual solid gold medallions engraved in-house at de Bethune in L'Aubusson by their engraver Michele Rotin. You'll also appreciate the degree of attention to detail as the dial comes across as a series of concentric rings with a gorgeous logic to them and an order. Getting to the center, you'll note that the watch uses real rose-lathe guilloche to create this billowing radial pattern. The hands, brigade style or modified brigade, are of gold, with the exception of the fired blue titanium Deadbeat seconds hand, which is beautifully long and extended. It's made of titanium to limit the power requirement of jumping at each second. There is a power reserve indicator, which, like a vintage marine chronometer, actually travels backwards. The more you wind it, and you'll see how this works, the closer it draws to zero. In the era of the marine chronometer, F.P. Journe does this on some of his watches too. The marine chronometer would indicate zero when fully wound, and then it would back off from zero because it was most important to wind 24 hours apart with a marine chronometer. There was no interest in how long the power reserve would last, just that you wind every 24 hours. Nevertheless, you can easily see that the power reserve here is between 4 and 5 days. 96 to 100 hours is the official rating of the watch. The reverse side is absolutely spectacular. The movement is the DB2109. Now, de Bethune makes its own dials, its own movements, and its own cases. You can see this is number 2 of 20 made in 2015. The movement is otherworldly. It has a large delta-shaped barrel bridge, twin self-adjusting barrels, that's a patented system by de Bethune, and a tourbillon carriage that makes a 30-second circuit, so it's moving at twice the speed of a conventional tourbillon carriage. The tourbillon carriage itself is made of a combination of titanium and silicon, and you can see all that iridescent blue and purple silicon. The escape wheel is the company's own design. It is made in silicon to reduce the total mobile mass as well as reduce friction in the system. You'll appreciate that everything that is blue is the signature blue titanium of the firm, and there is a bi-element De Bethune formed hairspring that's off-centered and beats concentrically like an overcoil, but it doesn't have the shock susceptibility of an overcoil. As much mass as possible with this balance wheel, which is patented and proprietary to De Bethune, but as much mass as possible is in the rim, which you can see is made of white gold. The remainder is hollowed out and, to the extent it exists at all, made of silicon. You'll also appreciate that there is a Deadbeat second system at the center of the barrel bridge. It has its own separate pallet system, and it has two wheels that are superimposed, and the pallets are not actually in the same plane. One is higher, one is lower, and it impulses using this indirect center second system every 1 second. What you'll also appreciate is that the wheels are made of 14-karat gold, rose gold, and individually hand-finished with a combination of chamfering of their inner circumference and their spokes, as well as black polishing of the teeth themselves. All screw heads are black polished. The edges of the bridges, as you can see, are a mile-wide mirrored anglage in the traditional fashion, started off with files and then finished with spinning ebony wood pegs covered in diamond paste. You'll also appreciate that the Côte de Bethune are exceptional and unusual. Real rose lathe Côte de Genève feature a darker side and a lighter side. When they're stamped, they'll be the same color on both sides. So you can see this is the real kind laid down with an abrasive wheel. But as you can see, there are two sides to the movement. The wheel is reversed on each side, which is why this side features the outboard ends of the individual waves dark, and then this side also features, on the opposite side of the movement, the dark side of the wave on the outboard end. And this is repeated on the base plate, so they actually reverse the wheel that's used to lay down the stripes on each side so that they splay outward in a symmetrical fashion that mirrors each side. And that's how the Côte de Genève, or Côte de Bethune in this case, are laid down. 30 meters water resistance, so maybe the watch can't do absolutely everything, but in terms of technical innovation, patents, craft arts, exclusivity, the provenance of the brand involved, this might be the single most capable and impressive watch I have ever reviewed. You need anything else? Well, that tourbillon, which makes its 30-second circuits, is beaten away at an El Primero-like 36,000 vibrations per hour. Truly, this watch has heart, soul, and brains. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com to own perhaps the finest watch from a company that only makes 150 watches per year.